Hello and welcome to the AI Conformance sub-project meeting of SIG Architecture. Today is the 16th of July 2026. Please be advised that this meeting is under the code of conduct of the Kubernetes project, which basically means be nice and excellent to your fellow attendees and speakers. Please put yourself into the notes document that I will paste in the chat now under attendees. And also, if someone is volunteering for note taking, please go ahead. Otherwise, we will make it a joint effort.
I can. Oh well, I like joint effort better. Although I'll lead, and if others want to fix my notes, that would be awesome. But I'll try to take notes.
Thank you, Justin. All right, then. We don't have any general updates. The only update that is that we have now, I believe, feature freeze for the next Kubernetes release, which means that technically we also have our freeze for changes to the AI Conformance program for the next release. Next topic is any comments to this? Sorry. Going once, going twice. Next topic is the biggest one that we want to discuss is the automated test topic. First and foremost is the how do we want to do automated tests? And Janet, as you're here, you can also do the introduction to this.
Right. So I recently added the automated test and a CI for that to the repo. So basically, if you go to the repo, you can see there is a test folder, and there is another folder under it. It'll be easier if I present.
Yes.
So basically, there's a test folder. There's some AI conformance test, and the README shows you how to run a test. It's basically a simple Go test. And I also want to have CI coverage to show that the test actually passed, and also make PR reviews easier. So basically, this just starts up a simple cluster for running it in Proud CI. But so most of the prerequisites for the cluster, for example, having an accelerator available in the cluster and installing DRA driver, etc., is covered by this CI cluster, but it doesn't provide all different flavors of test cluster yet. So for now, it's just one type of cluster. For example, the test we have mode for DRA and device plugin, but the CI cluster only has DRA driver version of the path. So that's the gist of it. And we're also adding more test coverage for all the requirements. We now backfilled all the cars, which is the proposal for every requirement and how we test them. So we should be able to start writing more automated tests for each requirement. And then I also mentioned some things in the meeting notes that basically AI conformance is different from Kubernetes conformance that tests for Kubernetes APIs, and they have E2E in the Kubernetes upstream, the KK repo. So for the AI conformance test, we have different flags so that when vendors want to run the test for certification, they can use different values for each tag to have the test pass. For example, in the test, there is allocation mode or accelerator type. So you can choose different accelerator type, but for now it only support NVIDIA GPU. So if users or vendors, they want different types, they can add that to the test, or they'll do it manually by filling out the form as the old way. The automated test just make certification easier, but it's not a blocker yet. And similarly, allocation mode allows you to choose DRA versus device plugin. All right, I'll stop here.
It's great that we have tests in place for the start. And thanks for the work on this. It brings us basically to the next topic. Any other comments from anyone?
I mean, I think, let me take a step back. I think we started these, and I know because there were discussions during June a year ago, and we did a fantastic work on AI conformance to put the program in place and the cards and the process and all of that. And we've been promising automation forever, right? So doing automation seems to be one of the most important things that we want to do if we want to keep expanding this and making it more valuable for Kubernetes, basically. So thank you, Janet, for pushing on this. I know it's not easy, and I think all the discussions like the next topic and all of that are super important, because if we get blocked on non-aligning and not be able to keep moving forward, it's going to be basically bad for the project. That's my take.
All right, then the next topic, gang scheduling. There has been, and I can also share my screen. There has been a pull request by Krish for adding a test to automatically test the gang scheduling feature, specifically here in this case with Q. And there basically the whole discussion started. Because the gang schedule, the test is running Q as for proving that you can install the gang scheduling software and that the gang scheduling software can run inside of your cluster, which is one of the must requirements that we currently have. However, the listing that we say there is that at least one gang scheduling solution that ensures all or nothing scheduling for distributed AI workloads. For example, Q or Volcano or something you must install and run to be conformant. So the implementation of the issue is basically install Q and verify that it's running, and have Q. If this is successful, the test is green. I can start with my take on this, and I wrote it in the issue, and is that as soon as we use Q inside of a test, inside of the named test, we basically say that Q is the go-to project to take for gang scheduling, because that's inside of the test. And as mentioned, for now, the tests are optional to make it easier for anyone to run. But as Janet also said a couple of minutes ago, for now, which means that we potentially come to the point that it's this for now will go to you must run the tests, which means that you must support Q. And I think that this is a dangerous approach. Kevin had his hand up first.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that this is something that the goal for the workload aware scheduling is that we should have gang scheduling in tree GA, and our hope is GA 1.38. So like we could just continue with the path of self-attesting for gang scheduling, as in like people can say, you know, I think we said that they can support Q or Volcano or Kai, and we could continue that and maybe like wait for the test until it's just like the validating the well, I guess the question now becomes, if we have it in tree, we don't necessarily even need to evaluate it as part of a conformance. But anyway, maybe that's a separate problem. I'll let Janet go though.
Yeah, so I disagree that this makes Q the way, because we also have the DRA driver and DRA GPU as part of the test. That doesn't make NVIDIA the way or make DRA the only way. We can support different options, and for a test like this, it has to be concrete, because there's no single API that represent all the GAN scheduling, and we're not limiting different solutions from being added to the test. This just makes the automation easier. It's not saying that you have to support this.
Justin, go ahead.
A question. I guess if we also added, so I'm also, for the record, on the side of sort of the it's okay. If we added the Volcano test at the same time, would we be comfortable? Right? I feel like the what's going to happen is, if we merge this, Volcano is going to be like, we better have, like, Q has one, we better have one, and we get what we want, right? Which is both of them. If we don't merge it, we get nothing. And so I think we're better to merge the Q one, but I would be okay with us merging, with you saying, yes, like we'll have either the same PR or a second PR, and we'll merge them both at the same time, if that makes you more comfortable, type thing.
I think it's first me, then Rita, then Krish. My point to this is that I don't mind that we merge it now, that we have Q in there now for the test. That I don't care. honestly. The problem is, as soon as we make the tests mandatory, and we enter a position where, for example, we have platforms that are already running, for example, Q, because they have a different way of installing, because it's a one-click installer inside of the platform itself or something like this, or if they maybe have their own gang scheduling proprietary software that is running inside, that they built for their platform. How can they still become conformant? Because the automated tests will never catch this, and no one will build an integration for a proprietary software of one vendor in the test suite. And that's basically the risk that I see. How do we deal with those cases in the future once the test suite is mandatory to run, like it is, for example, for Kate's Conformance? And Rita is next, I think.
Yeah, I added some comments to the PR. I think my only comment is, like, much like other test suites, if it's possible to decouple the actual test from the CI bit, right? So that the CI bit may include specific things harnessed like Q in order to test the test, right? To get them green. But how a vendor were to run the actual test is kind of up to them, right? And so, like, in the gang scheduling specifically, in my opinion, I think the Q stuff is an implementation detail for the CI. And even like the testing of the Q components are actually specific to Q. So kind of like what Mario was saying is, if let's say I install my own Q in a certain way, or I use something else, if Q is already part of the actual test, it will make it pretty hard for me to decouple that myself, right? Where, in my opinion, I think as a vendor, I would prefer the test to be agnostic, such that it's just testing the behavior of what a game scheduling platform should offer, right? So if I have a, say, inference or training job that requires game scheduling, what would that look like, right? Like if you say your platform provides game scheduling, does it actually do that, right? And that's completely, in my opinion, should be part of the actual test, and not how you enable that feature, right? I think enabling that feature is part of CI and part of the, like, integration outside of the actual tests, right? So that's what I added in the PR.
Krish, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, like, nice to meet you all. So yeah, I am Krish, and I have been working with OpenSSF. I'm a member of OpenSSF on the Minder project, building out the automated supply chain security policies. And yeah, so I just wanted to point out, like, why choose Q over Volcano. So like, Q was the most straightforward to start with because it works seamlessly with the native Kubernetes job API and the standard suspend mechanism. But I specifically designed it with a gang scheduler backend interface. So adding Vulkan or any other scheduler later is just a matter of writing a new backend implementation for the interface. The code tests like won't need to change on that.
Janet.
Yeah, I also think that maybe we should look again at the original requirement. It says that the platform must allow for the installation and successful operation of at least one game scheduling solution. For example, Q or Volcano, etc. And to be conformant, the vendor needs to demonstrate that their platform can successfully run that solution. So I think if we follow the requirement, it should be running. We should be running the solution, because I think it will be very hard to show a GAN scheduling capability of a platform without using any specific solution, specific APIs in the test. So we can add more on Q, Volcano, or anything else. And for the custom solution that people build, proprietary one or a custom one for their own platform, I think they can fall back to just having a writing the original form the manual way. The only downside for them is that they don't get automated tests. They still need to do it manually. And also it's a problem that we presume might happen, but maybe it will never happen. Maybe everyone will use a solution that's well adopted instead of a custom or proprietary one. And that becomes not a problem at all. But I think we should start with having some automated tests.
I'm lost who had the hand up first. So I think Krish was Krish, do you still have the hand up, or didn't you lower it?
Yeah, like I had again raised the hand. I just wanted to say one thing. Like, if we put the installation inside the test, any vendor running the suite has to either give the test like cluster admin privileges to install queue, or we risk overwriting their existing scheduler setup. It makes the test less portable. Uh, but however, like Janet is right about the car wording. Like a good middle ground here might be moving the actual installation to the E2E script, but keeping a verification step in the Go test that just checks if the required controller manager is healthy and running. That way we verify it's there without forcing an installation.
I agree. We should remove the installation from this, because especially if we have like one-click installers. And sorry for taking this as an example, but I remember this from the past that when I wanted to run Istio in GCP back in the day, there was like this service mesh button, and then some magic happened, and then some Istio installation happened in GCP, and I know that I couldn't change it from when I was cluster admin. I couldn't even interface with it. So, and I think that we still have installations that are doing something similar like this. And I think that if we keep the installation in, this would basically be a problem for the vendor even to run it. So I think if what Janet proposed, like remove the installation from the test itself, have the test for, let's say, Q and potentially volcanoes, or the most adopted ones in there, and for everyone else they can fill an exemption even if automated tests are required, because we use our internal gang scheduling software XYZ. Here's the proof that this is running, and this would cover the proprietary software. And next would be Federico.
So it feels to me, listening to the discussion, that there are two problems. One is the technical one, which we've been talking now, right? Like, if Q is already installed and you try to install it, you may mess up with the configuration. So I think sounds like we have a path. I was wondering if there is a second part of the problem, which is the one that we started the discussion. We are worried that if we merge the test like this, we are going to be seen as air quotes endorsing one of the frameworks, like king making. And I was wondering if there is some low-hanging fruit, easy way to make sure to be at peace with ourselves, make sure we are not doing that by the way we organize the packages. For example, if we say end-to-end, slash GAN scheduling, and then slash Q and Volcano, etc. Plus, maybe it's a README, maybe it's on top of each test, a statement, a comment saying, AI conformance, does not endorse any framework. These are the requirements, and these are the examples. Communities encouraged to contribute their own tests, following these guidelines, which goes back to the technical part of how we solve it, right? Because, for example, if we add Volcano and Q, and now we have a company that their conformant clusters are running on Q, do they have to still run the Volcano test? Is that a problem or not? But that's, I think, solvable on the technical side. Okay, so what I was trying to say is maybe it's a matter of documentation and optics, and we can solve it through that.
Justin.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds good to me. I don't know if anyone wants to reply to that. I wanted to mention what we did in KOps, which is very much along these lines. Like we have a horrific script, a very large bash script, which does all the installation. And then each of our tests, they use the Go test framework, and they basically detect whether, for example, Q is installed. And if not, they t.skip. And if like anything we t.skip, we can't use for automated conformance submissions. But we were able to actually get a path through that enabled, one for each. So there is a path here, and it does work. And I don't think no one has said to us, why did you pick, Q over, I can't remember whether we chose Q or Volcano, but no one has complained to us, why did you choose Q versus Volcano, or Volcano versus Q, whichever one we chose. So I don't think people are watching, at least KOps, too closely. So
I think this is a good proposal. And do you have the test script handy somewhere as a link so that we can put it in and get some inspiration on how you did it?
Sorry, Mario. The test for what?
For KOps.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I'll put a link in. Sorry, I thought.
Yeah. Because I think that's a good thing also to look at and to see how it is done, and maybe Chris rename the PR. Don't name it add Q gang scheduling test, because that's basically like add Q as the gang scheduling test because it's Q.
Yeah,
Andre.
just rename it to add gang scheduling test.
Sorry, I joined late. I think from my perspective, I agree that we don't need to be specific to Q here. I agree that we probably should have a base interface and extend it, and maybe, I don't know, I understand it requires more work from us, but support at least 2 solutions. Because again, some folks run Volcano in production and they kind of want to be AI conformant. And some workloads even don't integrate with Q natively, right? I know you can use Q pod integration, but sometimes some workload API, some CRDs, they don't well integrate with Q, and they don't even support suspend as an API within the workload, right? So I don't know, did you have a conversation that probably we should have support at least 2 solutions to run gang scheduling tests here?
Yeah, I think we can support more.
Yeah, exactly. The idea was that basically, and how Chris defined it, was that you can have multiple backends in this. And the idea is also to separate test logic a bit from installation logic, so that we can basically say there's a Volcano test, or you can use Volcano as backend, you can use Q as backend, you can use put in any other open source software that we come over. And the only limitation is when you use like proprietary software, then you cannot use the automated test suite, because obviously you can't create a backend for AI conformance with a pull request for only proprietary software.
So those separation, so we only ask platform administrators to, make sure those tests will be complete, right? So we not verify the installation. We only have the separate tests which check just against scheduling, right, capability. Correct?
Honestly, if a gang scheduling is running, I assume that it has been installed in some kind of way, because I'm not aware of magically appearing software that runs inside of a cluster without the installation. So I assume when I can verify that it's running and that it can do gang scheduling, I assume that the installation was successful.
But what if platform, has some in-house scheduler which allows them to run workload in all or nothing way?
Which would be fine, because then they would have an in-house gang scheduling software in their software that they are selling, and the installation part is being done by the company itself. We are requiring a gang scheduling software that is running and being installed or being installable. So, for example, some platforms have some kind of application catalog where you can just click it and it magically appears inside of your cluster, and you don't have to do any configuration for it whatsoever. How would we verify the installation? Because the installation is part of the proprietary software.
Yeah, but we don't, from my understanding, we don't verify the installation when we verify the gang scheduling capabilities, correct?
Yes.
For example, Cube has a bunch of features which we don't require to have, in the conformance requirements.
Yeah. Yes, because we are not a conformance program for Q. All right. I think we have an understanding and a way forward with this. Yes, no, maybe. Any other concerns on this? I see nodding. Great. So my ask would be, Krish, if you could rename the PR, also address Rita's comments to this, and basically do the separation. And then I think we can go forward with this. And if anyone has some spare time and some leisure and wants to add a Volcano backend to this after the PR is merged, please go ahead. I think that's the best way forward for now. And as mentioned, as Kevin has mentioned it, eventually, if we have upstream gang scheduling, we could go forward with this as well. Yes, Rita, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just want an update, based on the chat we're having on Zoom. I think if we are able to decouple the CI bit from the test, the enablement bit from the test itself, the behavior test, then I don't really I think anyone can bring their own script when they test for their own tests. Meaning you don't need to necessarily add Volcano to CI, right? That's the whole point of all decoupling. I just want to clarify that, right?
Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you've hit on the tension. You are correct, but I think the reason why I assume Krish added it is so that we could see that Krish's test worked, right? Because it is hard to review if without the CI coverage of the test, without the test for the test. How do we in good faith merge the Volcano test?
Oh, sure. I just meant if the qubit was part of the test itself, then I would argue people who use say Volcano, they have to add it, right? But if we're decoupling and moving the Q specific stuff to CI only, then there's really less incentive to need to add Volcano. because then like adding Volcano to CI is like, well, then we have to maintain that as part of the CI, right?
Yes, I imagine the incentive for the Volcano folk will be that they would like AI vendors that want to be AI conformant to not prefer Q because it is easier to be AI conformant if you install Q, right? Like if we merge this, there is an incentive for me as someone that wants to be AI conformant with minimal effort to install Q instead of Volcano. And I think that will drive Volcano to add the test.
Right, but if the test is like, for example, what Chris is saying is like testing if the job was paused when there's not enough capacity or whatever, right? If the test is changed to that only, then there's no Volcano or Q specific stuff in there, right? So
The problem is suspend is mostly a field for Q. So like we would still be testing the behavior of what Q is doing. Like Volcano would not be doing suspend.
I see.
So
So they may need to add some stuff just for Volcano.
yeah, basically, I mean, for Q, like in theory, you could do something like set up all the Q stuff and then check that I mean, yeah, like basically you have to have some configuration for Q to work to get what we're calling gang scheduling. And then Volcano has something I think different where they have their own version of like something called a pod group. I'm not even sure if it's like they might have their custom scheduler and their own APIs. It's been a while since I looked at Volcano. But yeah, because like I don't know any other project other than Q that really uses a suspend field. And Q does it by checking for quota emission based on the cluster queue. And if your cluster queue can emit it, it will emit it, and then it will go to the scheduler to do the placement. So it's what's hard about running a gang scheduling test is the definition isn't clear among different projects.
Okay.
And the reason why I still would go the extra mile for Volcano is exactly what Justin said. If we only do it for Q, then we are back to the king making problem, because then everyone will basically choose Q because it's easier. And there's not a convenient way to work with Volcano. Janet, go ahead.
So I think the test should, maybe the test doesn't need to cover every feature that every solution provides. It just based on the requirement we say ensures all or nothing scheduling for distributed AI workloads. Maybe the test for the game scheduling solution can just focus on that, but not every feature that the solution provides.
Yeah, so I think my again, when I was proposing these requirements back in almost a year ago, right? I was telling exactly the same, right? We shouldn't really test any Volcano or Q features. We should just verify that workload that you submit can acquire all of the like all or nothing resources. Basically, if you have 3 GPUs available in the cluster and you try to submit a workload that require 4, it won't get scheduled, right? And then you can roll back and like you can construct this test. So I think this is what we need to test because again, as I said, Q has a bunch of different features across the globe, right? We don't need to verify any of them. And the test can be very simple to try out, right?
Exactly, because otherwise we would become Q conformance program, and we are not Q conformance program. All right. Any other remark on this?
I guess like to your point about like the non-Q vendors, right? Like so if they use the test as is, it would fail. then do they need to like provide their own tests to show that, hey, this is the test we ran to meet this requirement? Or like, I mean, they could submit PRs, but it could take a while.
I mean, when it comes to proprietary software, there will never be a PR because it's not testable by a script and verifiable because no one has access outside of the vendor technically. And so the fallback for all of this would always be the old method. Prove it somewhere in your documentation or something like this, that you can do gang scheduling.
So, I mean, I guess what I'm wondering, like, we have one release now where I think we have to, well, hopefully, in 1.38, we should have gang scheduling GA entry. So then we are only like, I'm envisioning like after a certain point, like if people want to ship gang scheduling, it's by default in Kubernetes. So then like, should we just go with the like self-attesting until the entry one is there? Because I think we're all probably like gang scheduling entry would be fine for anyone because it's available as APIs. And then like we don't necessarily have to have these tests to verify Volcano or Q or Grove or whatever.
I can share my opinion. Look, great job on getting it into KK. I think we want to be able to go a little faster maybe, and not have to ship everything in KK. Like that is basically the Kubernetes conformance program, right? Like we also don't want to become the Kubernetes conformance program. And I think there are other areas of functionality which are not going to land in one release, and we want to be able to standardize them, test them, get them adopted, get people using Kubernetes with them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's fair. It's just, yeah, I mean, I can think of at least 4 or 5 different gang scheduling solutions right now off the top of my head. And like I even argue that Q's not, Q's barely solving gang scheduling, even though we've said it is. It I was always against adding it because like I shared a doc where Q explicitly says like you can use Q with a gang scheduling plugin, and that's fine because like the scheduler and Q are kind of different. So anyway, I'm fine if we want to add Q and like it's a best approximation for gang scheduling, but it's probably the best we have right now. And we can focus on Q and Volcano for now. I know that I'm sure Grove or co-scheduling are also 2 other solutions that exist in the community, but like anyway, yeah, like if I guess like what I remember is our test was like if Q or Volcano or something exists, you have gang scheduling, and I was just thinking we could just continue that until another release or so, and then actually test and verify entry gangs, but it's up to you all.
If I may, I think this is a success story. Like I think when things are use one of these options and we're going to pretend they all work the same, but plainly they don't all work the same. Otherwise, there'd be one project, right? Like that's not a great story for users either. Like we want to get the functionality out there. We want to get people using it. Ideally, we want to standardize it and like bring everyone up to the same bar and give everyone the same API. And we don't necessarily know the shape of the API. I think what you have achieved with gang scheduling in KK is exactly what we want to see for all of these things. But we do want to. It will be messy until it is like totally standardized, and there will be some things that people will not need to use. Like we'll invent something new, and we'll forget about whatever it is that falls by the wayside. So I think that there's value in the process, and I think that this is a success story. And yeah, in 138, let's switch to the official APIs or whenever it is, right? That's great.
But just to be clear, in the test, do we just verify that if one of those solutions installed the requirements, is complete? Because I think this is not true, right? Because everyone can install
And
Q, but
it
so,
is
yeah, sure.
installed and show that you can gang schedule. That are the two things that you need to prove.
What is the reason to show that it's installed?
That was the wording back last year. I don't know anymore.
No,
why.
but this is not. But this is yeah.
The reason was to not king make Q, like Slurm or Volcano or other solutions have different ways of doing this.
Yeah. But what I was saying, like, we don't have requirements that you must install Q Volcano, correct?
No,
Requirements.
that
No,
was
no.
that was our requirements, I thought. It was
The
one of the
requirement-
options.
Exactly, it was one of the EGs, like for example, Q, for example, Volcano.
Yeah. So it was
Okay.
installation successful operation. Yeah, installation might be an issue, right? Because we can just say successful operation. Yeah, because the question again, like that I asked before, what if you have some in-house scheduler or co-scheduler plugin that allow you to do gang scheduling? I guess this will not work for them, right?
It says allow for, so as long as you allow for it, it's fine. You don't have to install. The platform
Yeah,
doesn't have to install for users.
I mean, I would argue that if you say allow to install, if I have an in-house solution, I also allow it to be installed inside of my cluster, because this does not say you need to be able to install another solution outside the one that I offer you as a vendor. It says ensure that an all or nothing scheduling software for distributed AI workload can be installed or used and successfully operation in the cluster. If I have my own proprietary software inside of my installation that I can one-click into a cluster, I can also install it. Then the installing is the clicking the button thing.
I guess my only question, like, I don't understand why in the test we should verify this. Like, why we should verify that some of those software has been installed.
I wouldn't verify it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Andre's right. Like looking at it, like what I think our intent. I think the intent is fine. I think the intent is even clearer if we dropped installation and, right? Like it really doesn't matter how it came to be. Like I think Mario, you made this point. Like if it's there, someone installed it and we don't really care who. Like it doesn't matter whether the user installed the, whatever you want, a platform operator or the vendor, whoever it is. So I think maybe we could in future drop installation and. I don't know whether installation and gets us anything. Like successful must allow for the successful operation of at least one gang scheduling solution.
I think the reason we add allow for installation is so that we don't mandate the platform needs to provide a managed solution, because if we only say it support operation of gang scheduling, it assumes that the platform provides the behavior, provides the solution out of the box. So we add that allow for installation to make sure that the platform does not have to provide a managed solution.
Yeah, I think that was the point why we added installation, because a lot of the platforms didn't had a built-in one-click solution.
I think it's a word. I think our intent is aligned, right? We maybe need to wordsmith and see whether we.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe we should find a better wording for this must rule so that it is clearer that Andre's statement is covered. Basically, like, we don't care as long as it's something is there that can run stuff. We are fine. Please don't put my words in there. All right. Okay. I think that's a good task to take. So please think about proper wording for the next time, because we only have 5 minutes left. Thanks again for the work, Krish. Nevertheless, I think it is the test that you build is still valuable, and thank you for your contribution in there. And yeah, I would say that we have an idea what we want to achieve. We now just need to make it more clear in how we write it and how we define it in the word by wordsmithing. All right. Any last words?
So the problem is technical, and if it's technical, we can solve it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And words. Words is always a problem.
Yeah. But sounds like there is a solution for both. Not that we are, scratching our heads saying, this we don't know how we are going to do. Okay.
I think we all are pretty much aligned. It's just the details on how to frame it and how to solve it. I think
Great.
that's basically where it boils down. Great. Then I wish everyone a beautiful day and a beautiful weekend if we don't see each other in another meeting. And see you not in 2 weeks, because I will be in Japan. Bye-bye.